there's one game that receives way too many remakes and re-releases, it's Street Fighter 2. I had no idea there would be this many versions. When I was young, I was only aware of Super Street Fighter 2, and I thought it was only available on the SNES and Genesis. Later on, I come to realize that it originated in the arcade, and it spawned a bevy of remakes and re-releases. For some reason, I stopped taking the game serious after the age of 10. I just seemed not to care about it anymore, until recently when I purchased Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix for the PS3. And just like that, I got hooked again. This version is downloadable through the PSN and Xbox Live, and is designed to fit HD TVs. Although I can't exactly experience the full HD portion due to my component-only compatible TV, it does still look pretty good nonetheless. It's like taking the original Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and duplicating it with redrawn characters and backgrounds. Even the music is remixed, thanks to the hardcore gaming musicians at ocremix.org. Even though I suck at fighting games, this game can be enjoyable by both noobs and masters. Here's my review. Story. The plot in this version of Street Fighter is no different from any other version. Each fighter travels the world to challenge one another to determine who will receive the title of Grand Master. Also, each fighter has their own story and goal in becoming the Grand Master. For instance, Ryu wants to continue to perfect his fighting skills, and Chun-Li wants to track down one of the Grand Masters that may be responsible for the death of her father. But regardless, they all participate in the struggle to make it to the top. The game doesn't beat around the bush much in terms of story elements. You basically select your fighter, and you travel to a certain part of the world to challenge another. After the fight, the winning fighter says a brief victory line, but that's it. And of course you get the ending, but the game itself doesn't display too much story detail. Gameplay. The real heart of this game is in fact the gameplay. Since this is a fighting game, you're pretty much reliant on the combos. If you're a beginner, you can pretty much get away with just doing regular punches or kicks. Or if you're really cheap, you can pretty much just use your fierce kicks. All the classic combos are available here, including Ryu's ever so famous Hadouken and Honda's 1000-hand attack. If you want to master a character's moves, you can now see how to do them by checking your character's move list in the pause menu, whereas before you had to refer to the instruction manual constantly. From what I can remember, doing these combos on the SNES controller was a little tough, but the PS3 analog stick makes things more simple. The controls are very quick in response, so you won't feel any lag in the actual game. During a fight, whenever your character strikes, your super gauge fills up gradually. Once it's completely filled, your character can unleash a deadly attack, usually combining 2 or more of the original moves. If this power is released when your opponent is near defeat, you are treated to a nice slow-mo finisher that leaves you filled with pride for your excellent victory. Aside from the main game, you also have the option to play online. I'm not even going to attempt this just yet, at least not until I get better at this game because I suck. But according to a handful of my friends and thousands of people on the internet, the online is supposed to run pretty smooth. A few dropouts here and there, but overall there weren't many complaints for lags or distorted gameplay. Speaking of getting better, there's also a practice mode for noobs like me, to brush up on their fighting skills using their favorite character. This is actually pretty helpful, and you get to set the fighting conditions to suit your practicing mood. And like I said before, anyone can play this game. It's simple, fun, and you can improve your skills at any given point, giving this game a ton of replay value. Graphics. The graphics in this game are pretty great when played on an HD TV. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have an HD TV, it's more like an ED TV, but the game still looks pretty good even though it's displayed on a non-HD. The character art is redrawn, giving it a more manga-styled look. Same can be said about the backgrounds. The backgrounds still perform the same animations from previous Street Fighter 2 games, but with redrawn characters and background objects. Seeing everything in HD is pretty much a whole other reason than rebuying Street Fighter 2, but for me, it just doesn't matter. I personally don't care too much for HD, but that's my opinion. As long as I can play a game and enjoy it, I'm fine. But in the case of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, there's more to the game than just a graphical facelift. So in general, the graphics in this remix are pretty nice. Sound. One of the biggest surprises for me was whenever I found out that the game's music score originated from ocremix.org's remixers. ocremix.org has some great musicians, and some of them actually remix the music for this game, and they all sound great. It just goes to show you that great talent can sometimes be discovered in common people. Aside from that, all the other sound effects from this game seem to be exact imports from the old Street Fighter 2 games, and I can't complain with that. Just don't expect realistic jaw-busting and bone-crunching sounds. Even though the sounds are classic, they at least let you know how much damage you're dealing by the sounds you inflict, from the lightest punch to the fiercest kick. So in conclusion, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix is a decent game. While still retaining most of its classic gameplay mechanics, it adds a few new features like online multiplayer and a remixed soundtrack. and the obvious HD facelift. For 15 bucks on the PlayStation Network, I'd say it's a tiny bit much, but overall you won't really feel like you broke the bank. I'd say it's worth it if you're into fighting games. After all, this is the title that truly revolutionized fighting games back in the day. You can't exactly rent this game to see if you would come to appreciate its value, since it's downloadable, but if you're a fan of the series, I don't think you'll regret it much. I give Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix for the PS3 and Xbox 360 a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys very much for watching my review. I hope it's been helpful in some way or another, and until next time guys, you keep gaming.